Milk Minute!
Why students must love research. First, for adaptability. Qualitative research can change on the fly based on reactions and responses by the participants as they come in. As a research session continues, researchers can ask respondents why certain products appeal to them more than others, giving the company a more grounded understanding of their customers' opinions of their products. Second, for subjectivity. For businesses, understanding the why behind successes and failures guides decision-making in the future. Through subjective questioning, qualitative research allows consumers to explain the rationale behind their behaviors, thus informing companies on how to modify their products to better suit their audiences. And last, for creative approaches. Qualitative research methods embrace the notion that everybody has a unique voice. By relying on description, qualitative discussions have the potential to let the audience take control, reversing the standard researcher or responder dynamic. Questions can be light-hearted, and the respondents can inject humor in their answers.
Senior High School on Air.
Senior High School on Air. The frontline of quality and excellent learning.
Excellent learning. You have all the best of the best.
Best of the best of the best.
Madaling umaga, handa na ba kayong matuto?
Handa na po.
Reading and writing.
Pagbasa at pagsusuri ng teksto tungo sa pananaliksik.
Practical Research 1.
English for academic and professional purposes.
Ability and Statistics.
General Biology 2.
Disciplines and ideas in applied social sciences.
Cookery and more.
Senior High School, best of the best.
Best of the best of the best.
Good day, senior high school students. I hope you're in excellent condition to listen. Let me be your guide as we maneuver our brains on another interesting topic and practical research one that you will find enjoyable. I'm your radio teacher for today, Sir Jeremy Tamayo Hilbaliga. A few reminders before we start. Make sure that you're only focused right now in today's topic and avoid any distractions for the meantime. Please listen attentively, ready your notes, and try to take down important terms as we move along. You should also be aware of the direction for the activities and the quiz which will be given later. Are you ready? I know you are. Let's get started then.
Tayo na sa Radyo Eskwela. Tayo na!
Now, check your answers on the previous quiz. Are you excited to know your score? For number 1, the answer is quantitative. I'll repeat, it's quantitative. Number 2 is qualitative. I'll repeat, number 2 is qualitative. For number 3, the answer is quantitative. I'll repeat, it's quantitative. How about number 4? We have qualitative. I'll repeat for number 4, it's qualitative. And for the last item, we have quantitative. Again, quantitative for number 5. How many did you get? Okay, congratulations to our students who got a high mark. For others, you still have a lot of time to improve. Before we start, if you need to have a break, do it now because this topic may take a while and you may not have a chance to do it later. And while doing that, Please listen to this reminder.
Ilang buwan nang lumipas, 1,000 oras nakalipas. Akala ay natutulog, walang ginagawa sa sulok. Mga bata ay excited, kaya modalities ay implemented. Para proper education ay mag-get sa SDO Isabela. Walang batang maiiwan, we will learn as one, 'cause in education there is fun. Ang SDO Isabela ay handang-handa na sa edukasyon sa bagong normal. Handang isip, handa bukas. Isang paalala mula sa kagawaran ng edukasyon at ng himpilang ito.
And we are back. Our topic today is all about characteristics, strengths, weaknesses, and kinds of qualitative research. The learners are expected to describe the characteristics, strengths, weakness, kinds of qualitative research, and illustrate the importance of qualitative research across fields. Our world is a unique place, a melting pot of diverse culture, tradition, and human nature that brings about a particular amount of excitement, given its complexity to certain people. Who are these people, you may ask? Of course, they are researchers who travel across the world to study the intricacies of human nature. Isn't that exciting? You might think it's boring just because the word study is involved. But get this, you get to travel to different places, meet new people, interact with them, and understand why they do certain stuff, just like Lara Croft. Do you know who she is? That's right, she's the main protagonist in the movie Tomb Raider. Miss Croft loves to study ancient culture, discover secret tombs, and uncover mystery behind them. Though only a fictional character, I hope she can serve as a motivation for you to strive for knowledge and be a researcher yourself. So, if you decide to be one, where do you start as a student? Say for example, you have a classmate who's very shy, doesn't talk much, and get very grumpy if approached by your other classmates. What do you do? Nice idea! You can try to gather data through interview or observation. Analyze the gathered data and see if you can help your classmate to be more approachable in the future. Point is, you can always start your study with variables readily available around you, just like your classmates. Cool, right? What's even more cool is that the terminologies that I presented, such culture, tradition, human nature, interview, and observation, are all parts of a whole. The whole being qualitative research. Don't worry if you're still confused about this whole thing, since we will equip you with enough ammunition to better know what qualitative study are all about, especially their characteristics, strengths, and weaknesses, kinds, and their significance across fields. I hope you enjoy. Let's focus first on the characteristics of a qualitative research. We actually have 7 characteristics. These are naturalistic inquiry, inductive analysis, qualitative data, dynamic system, context sensitivity, empathic neutrality, and design flexibility. I'll repeat, these are naturalistic inquiry, inductive analysis, qualitative data, dynamic systems, context sensitivity, empathic neutrality, and design flexibility.
Tayo na sa Radyo Eskwela. Tayo na!
Let's focus first on naturalistic inquiry. So, what do you think does this characteristic imply? Good point. This characteristic deals with studying real-world situations as they unfold naturally. This is not like some studies where you manipulate the environment to get the desired result. In qualitative research, you observe and gather data in an environment where it is non-manipulative and non-obtrusive for the respondents. For example, as a researcher, you observe a group of students to determine their behavior inside their classroom. The environment in the classroom where students' behavior occur naturally. So, can you acquire a valid data in such place? Correct, since we get to experience the student's natural behavior. The next characteristic is inductive analysis. Any idea what it is? Alright, inductive analysis emphasizes immersion and specifics of a research data to discover important categories and interrelationships. An example of this can be the scientific method of thinking. Can you still remember what scientific method is all about? Spot on! The focus of the scientific method is thinking a specific concept that will eventually lead you to more complex ideas as generalizations or conclusions. Remember, specific to general idea. Next, we have qualitative data. So, what is a qualitative data? Certainly, these data are detailed. Thick description inquiry, in-depth with direct quotations capturing people's personal perspectives and experiences. For instance, when you interview a person, you should, as much as possible, make their answers intact even if the data is in their local dialect. But why? Yes, to be able to get the whole picture of what he's trying to tell you when you study the data later. Next, we have dynamic system. What can this be all about? Indeed, dynamic systems prefer attention to process. It also assumes the change is constant and ongoing, whether the focus on an individual or an entire culture. A good example for this is when a researcher uncovers that a new behavior had emerged to his respondents. Say for instance, aside from being noisy, they also tend to have high social skills. Then, the researcher should be willing to include new data in his study since we know that human behavior is constantly changing. Let's proceed to context sensitivity. Do you have any knowledge about this characteristic? Good point. Context sensitivity places findings on a social, historical, and temporal context unsure of the possibility or meaningfulness of generalization across time and space. To further analyze this, let me ask you this question. Is it justifiable to generalize your findings about a certain individual to describe the whole population? Alright, in context sensitivity, you can't just generalize since change is always imminent over time. Next characteristics we have empathic neutrality. Any idea about this characteristic? Sure thing. It means that complete objectivity is impossible since in qualitative research, the focus is the researcher's passion in knowing the world in all its complexity. Let's connect a query into this. Do you think that all data can be measured by numbers? Very good. Of course not. Numbers signify objectivity, so not all can be measured objectively and can be best measured through experience and empathic insight by a researcher. Now, let's focus on the last one, which is design flexibility. So, what is design flexibility? Right qualitative research adapts to situation change and avoids getting locked into a rigid design and pursues a new path of discovery as they emerge. The main word is flexible, meaning able to adjust to a situation because as we're already discovered, data in qualitative studies tend to change constantly as the study goes on.
Tayo na sa Radyo Eskwela. Tayo na!
So, there are more characteristics of qualitative research. Now, take a deep breath and let's proceed to the next topic, the strengths and weaknesses of a qualitative research. Can you think of your strengths? How about your weaknesses? Can you think one? Okay, thank you for sharing. We all have some sort of kryptonite in some areas. On a serious note, just like you, qualitative research has its own strengths and weaknesses, and so we focus first on its strengths. One strength of qualitative research is that issues can be examined in detail and in depth. I'll repeat, issues can be examined in detail and in depth. Why do you think so? Definitely, the method of a qualitative study such as interview and observation itself provides a deeper understanding of the problem with no restriction in place. An example can be on the interview process where you can adjust your questions based from the answers of the respondents, and that provides empathic insight on the topic of concern. Another strength of a qualitative research is that the obtained data based on experience is sometimes more powerful than quantitative data. I'll repeat, data based on human experience is sometimes more powerful than quantitative data. To better understand this, say for example, you are a student researcher examining whether students like the food being served in the canteen. The results showed that 90% of them are not satisfied with the food. Now, you have a number which is 90%, but did you even bother knowing why they are not satisfied? This is where qualitative research comes in to further analyze such situations through interview and observation. Lastly, qualitative research can offer the best light or best answers to certain phenomena. This is best applied to issues concerning human behavior, group culture and traditions, upon which results can't be readily quantified and requires deeper analysis and understanding. So, those are some of the strengths of a qualitative research. Now, let's proceed to the weaknesses of qualitative research. The first one is the researcher's subjectivity. I'll repeat, the researcher's subjectivity. Do you still remember what subjectivity is? Indeed, subjectivity primarily talks about things that depend on your own ideas and opinions. Just like your own understanding of something. What if your personal interpretation is different from the actual behavior that you're observing? That's when trouble comes in. When you're an inexperienced researcher, then you are more likely to commit such mistakes. Remember that research quality is heavily dependent on the individual skill of a researcher and more easily influenced by the researcher's personal biases. Another weakness of a qualitative research is time. I'll repeat, time. The volume of data makes analysis and interpretation time-consuming. Based on what we learned earlier, what type of environment do qualitative research usually engaged in? Precisely, in a natural environment. However, as much as you want to immerse yourself with all the data you can gather, total immersion of things in the natural setting of the research can be time-consuming, tedious, and resource-draining as well. Lastly, one weakness of a qualitative study can be the researcher's presence. I'll repeat, researcher's presence. The researcher's presence during the data gathering, which is often unavoidable in this type of research, can affect subjects' response. For instance, if you were to observe on a room to determine students' behavior, what do you think will happen if the students saw you observing during lecture? Certainly, most likely, the students will change their behavior since they knew that there is someone observing them, and this might affect the result of your study. Those are some of the weaknesses of a qualitative research. Now, let's continue to the kinds of qualitative research. Some research focuses on group culture, some on human experiences, others as a single unit, and most of the time, discovering a theory in a substantive area. There are 4 major kinds of qualitative research, and it includes case study, phenomenology, ethnography, and grounded theory. I'll repeat: case study, phenomenology, ethnography, and grounded theory. Let's analyze them one by one. Let's focus first on case study. Can you guess what case study is? Splendid! It used for a research approach with specific boundaries that can be both qualitative and quantitative. In addition, it is an entity studied as a single unit, and it has clear confines and specific focus bound to context. This type of research usually takes place in the field of social care, psychology, and education. An example of this type of research can be studied of an individual with a unique health condition, as you want to know the individual's day-to-day life, or if you want to observe a student who constantly bullies his classmates and study how you can reduce the occurrence of the behavior. Next one is phenomenology. Phenomenology is an approach to philosophy and not specifically a method of inquiry where it employs to pursue a particular study that employs philosophical implications in the question. Quite confusing, isn't it? To simply explain, it refers to the study of how people find their experience meaningful. Its primary goal is to make people understand their experience about some relevant instances in their life. Say, how's your experience going through your junior high school days? Such questions can be best applied in phenomenology studies since the commonality of the experience by the respondents is what's significant. Next, we have grounded theory. It is a development theory directly based and grounded in the data collected by the researcher. It is a research methodology for discovering theory in a substantive area. To better explain this, it is like discovering a new theory to underlie in your study at the time of data collection and analysis. Through your observation of your subjects, you will happen to find the theory that applies to your current study. And lastly, we have ethnography. From the name itself, do you have any idea what ethnography is? Alright, it is the direct description of a group, culture, or a community to get a clear understanding of its organizational setup, internal operations, and lifestyle. Do you know some indigenous groups in your area? If you want to immerse yourself with the culture of tribal or indigenous groups, then this is the best qualitative design for you. Only problem is, you need an ample amount of time to really capture a group's culture and tradition since you are immersing yourself, meaning experiencing like being a part of them. Those are the kinds of qualitative research. Now, let us proceed to our last topic for today, which is the importance of research across fields. There's no denying the benefits that qualitative research had done for us, and it really helped unveil the robe of mysticism that surrounds human nature. Let us have a closer look on how qualitative research influenced different fields of study. Let's first look on the field of medicine. Qualitative research, majority of which are case studies, have helped us unlock the mysteries of human mind. Although relatively uncommon in healthcare research, qualitative research is now receiving recognition and is increasingly used in healthcare research with social and cultural dimensions. Unlike quantitative research, which is deducive and tends to analyze phenomena in terms of trends and frequencies, qualitative research seeks to determine the meaning of a phenomenon through description. It aims to develop concepts in patients and other medical respondents that aid in understanding of natural phenomena, which emphasize on the meaning, experience, and views of the participants. Next is the significance in the field of education. Qualitative research is very important in educational research as it addresses the how and why research questions and enables deeper understanding of experiences, phenomena, and context. Qualitative research allows you to ask questions that cannot be easily put into numbers to understand human experience, getting at the everyday realities of students, teachers, and some social phenomenon, and studying important questions as they are really practiced helps extend knowledge and understanding. Lastly, let's take a look at the significance of qualitative research in the field of culture and tradition. Since qualitative research does not designate a specific approach, it signifies development of a coalition of interest and the movement towards inquiry, especially with groups of people of diverse culture and background. In understanding culture, the soundness of the knowledge base is critical to the tribe effectiveness, survival, and at the same time, we satisfy ourselves with added knowledge of culture treasures that can lead to preservation upon which future generations will appreciate. So, that's all of it for qualitative research. Did you enjoy listening? I hope you've learned a lot from our topic. Let's recall some of the concepts discussed. Can you enumerate the 7 characteristics of research? Okay, so these are naturalistic inquiry, inductive analysis, qualitative data, dynamic systems, context sensitivity, empathic neutrality, and design flexibility. How about some strengths of qualitative research? Alright, first, we have issues that can be seen in detail. Second is a strong human experience. And third, it can provide the best light and best answer to certain phenomena. How about the weaknesses? Indeed, we have subjectivity, time, and research presence. Meanwhile, on the kinds of qualitative research, we have case study, ethnography, grounded theory, and phenomenology. Qualitative research also played significant role on the field of medicine, field of education, and field of culture and tradition. So, that's all of it. That's quite a lot of learning for today. Before we start our assessment, let us listen to a few reminders first.
Mare, baka pwedeng makahiram muna ng pera mo. Pambili ko ng cellphone ni Junior. Malapit na ang pagbubukas ng klase, ngunit wala pa rin siyang gagamitin. Ay, paano na kaya ito?
Naku, Mare, hindi mo na kailangang bumili ng cellphone dahil may iba't ibang learning modalities ang DepEd, gaya ng reader-based instruction, TV-based instruction at modular learning. Hindi lang online learning.
Ay, ganun ba, Mare? Sige, Mare, mauna na ako. Ibabalita ko pa yan kay Junior. Salamat!
Ang paalalang ito ay hatid sa inyo ng DepEd at ng lang ito.
It is now time to assess what you've learned through a short quiz. Kindly prepare your quiz notebook and write the date today. Set aside your notes and listen very carefully as I will only repeat the question twice. Again, I'll repeat the question twice. There are only 5 items for today's quiz. This will be in a true or false format. Write true if you think the given statement is correct. Otherwise, write false if you think the statement provided is incorrect. Are you ready? Let's begin. For the first item, empathic neutrality means that complete objectivity is impossible for qualitative research. Let me repeat. Empathic neutrality means that complete objectivity is impossible for qualitative research. Is it true or false? Let's proceed to the next item. The grounded theory focuses on culture and tradition of people. I'll repeat for number 2, grounded theory focuses on culture and tradition of people. Is it true or false? For the third item, subjectivity is one weakness of qualitative research where it emphasizes personal bias for the researcher. Let me repeat. Subjectivity is one weakness of a qualitative research where it emphasizes personal bias for the researcher. Is it true or false? For item number 4, qualitative research in the field of culture and tradition provides significant understanding to learners and teachers. I'll repeat, qualitative research in the field of culture and tradition provides significant understanding to learners and teachers. Is it true or false? And for the last item, one downside of ethnography is that it is time-consuming. I'll repeat, One downside of ethnography is that it is time-consuming. Is it true or false?
Tayo na, tayo na, tayo na sa Radyo Eskwela. Tayo na, tayo na, tayo na sa Radyo Eskwela. Tayo na!
That's it. We're done with your quiz. It's quite easy, isn't it? If you want additional information about this topic, you can use the internet to visit informative websites such as Google and YouTube, or download modules and activity sheets online if you have spare time. Answers will be provided in the next episode. Thank you for listening. Make sure to tune in here at School on Air every day. On behalf of our scriptwriter, Suhail Farah Muhammad Hussein, our technician, and the SDO Isabela RBI production team, I'm your radio teacher, Sir Jeremy Tamayo Hilbaliga, reminding you that your health must be your #1 priority. Good day, everyone!
Patuloy ang edukasyon para sa ating henerasyon.
Sa daan ng pagkatuto ay walang may iwan.
Kaya halina sa Radyo Eskwela!